Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a huge online debate about lifestyle, money, and, well, what things really cost. We're going to calculate the actual price of a very specific and very popular American dream.
So this is the question that started it all. It popped up online and, whoa, did it spark a massive conversation about money and what people think a certain lifestyle costs. So, you know what? We're going to do exactly what it says. Let's do the math.
Okay, let's really dive in here. What does it actually take to fund this dream of a single-income kind of upper-class life, especially in a big, expensive city? I think you'll find the answer is probably way different from what you'd guess. All right, first things first. If we're going to do the math right, we have to be super clear about the scenario we're talking about. We need to define exactly what this lifestyle looks like. Okay, so this is the crucial part. We're not talking about just any single-income family. No, this is a very specific, very high-cost setup. We're talking Los Angeles, a family with 4 kids, all supported by just one person's income. And, this is key, the kids are in private school and there's household staff to help run the home. All right, now that we know what we're aiming for, let's start adding things up. We're going to look at the major expenses one by one. This is really where that aspirational dream starts to meet the cold, hard reality of a spreadsheet.
First up, and honestly, this is one of the absolute biggest costs for a family like this, is education. We're talking about an elite private school education for 4 children.
In a city like LA, a top-tier private school is not cheap. And for 4 kids, the total tuition can easily hit a jaw-dropping $150,000 a year. That's our first big number.
Okay, what's next? Well, to keep a large upper-class home running smoothly, especially with 4 kids running around, hired help, like a full-time housekeeper, is pretty much considered essential for this particular lifestyle.
So the cost of having full-time help is another massive line item on our budget. We're going to add an estimated $60,000 a year to our running total.
And believe it or not, we haven't even talked about the house itself yet. Or, all the other expenses that really define what people think of as an upper-class life. I mean, just think about it. You've got the mortgage on a house big enough for 6 people, then there are property taxes. You probably have a couple of nice cars. You're going on family vacations. Even just groceries and going out costs more. All of these things add up incredibly fast.
So, after just scratching the surface on some of these major, non-negotiable costs for this lifestyle, what's the grand total looking like? Where are we at?
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. Just look at that total. These 3 categories alone add up to over $300,000. And remember, this is money you're spending, so it's after-tax money. It absolutely blows that original $80,000 figure right out of the water.
Right. So if you need to have over $300,000 in your pocket to spend every year, what kind of salary does that single earner have to make before the government takes its cut?
So the real number we're talking about here isn't $80,000. It's much, much closer to $400,000 a year. That's the pre-tax income you'd need to actually pull off this dream life.
So what's the big lesson here? What's the takeaway? Well, let's just look at the huge contrast between the online myth and the actual financial reality. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you have the dream of doing this on $80,000 a year. On the other, you have the math, which says you need $400,000. That's a 5-fold difference. It's a massive, massive gap. And looking at it this way, as a chart, you can really see just how tiny that $80,000 fantasy is compared to what's really needed. The gap between the two is a whopping $320,000. So, why does any of this matter? Well, it's a really powerful reminder that the lifestyles we see online, the ones that look so perfect and effortless, they almost always come with a price tag that is rarely, if ever, talked about. And that leaves us with this final question. Something to think about the next time you're scrolling through your feed. It kind of makes you want to look past the perfect picture and wonder, what's the real math going on behind the scenes?